And he gives to Byars. Byars has the corner. He has the first down, and look out. He's wearing shoe. He's running without a shoe with a touchdown.
This is very surreal. There's two memories when I was a little boy. One of them caused me to be a lifelong Dallas Cowboy fan because I was watching the Blue Star. The other one was with my dad. I was 8 years old, and I watched you run out of your shoe in front of that television, and I mean, just fell in love with Ohio State. Ladies and gentlemen, the legend Keith Byars is joining Casey on Tap tonight. Keith, thanks so much for being with us, man.
No, I'm glad to be here on the show. Too bad you got one bad team. You cheer the Buckeyes. You cheer, you're a Cowboy fan. Ugh.
Tell me about it.
I'm trying not to hold that against you, Casey.
Lifelong Buckeye. I'm a Buckeye alum. We got two things. Obviously, we want to talk about the Buckeyes now and what's going on with the playoff now. But let's talk about you for a minute. What are you most proud of as an Ohio State Buckeye? Let's just ask you.
That's a good question. Well, being a Buckeye, I grew up a lifelong Buckeye fan. And one of the reasons why I chose to go to Ohio State, they were well established even before I was born. So I wanted to be a part, of a legacy. I just wanted to be mentioned as one of the great players at Ohio State history because Ohio State has such a rich history, a really, truly rich history. I don't like when people talk about who's the best running back of all time, and then most people only have a memory that goes back 10 to 15, 20 years, and they remember those players. But, like I said, one of the reasons why I chose Ohio State is because of the history and who the Buckeyes are.
We're sitting there, all right, who are the top 5 running backs? Your opinion, my opinion. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, this Pete Johnson guy, man, I bet you Keith says Pete Johnson because he's all over the place.
Very well. Yeah, Pete Johnson was one of my big brothers. He blocked for Archie Griffin. So he was with Archie 3 of the 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And so anytime they was inside the 5-yard line, Pete was scoring those touchdowns. So Archie didn't get to score those touchdowns.
That's crazy. And he still won it.
He still won it. He still, won the Heisman Trophy. Me and Pete, I think we share the most touchdowns by a running back. We've got 50 touchdowns.
The Buckeyes right now, okay? Obviously, we just lost our center. McLaughlin?
Yeah.
Talk to us about somebody who understands the importance of the offensive line. Give us your opinion. How bad is this going to hurt us moving forward?
Hopefully not as much. Seth McLaughlin was probably playing better than any offensive lineman, on their offer. Probably would have been All-American.
Damn.
And maybe he still makes it. I hope so. Yeah. That's a blow. That's going to be a major blow. But I always say the offensive line, that has to be the tightest unit on the team because no one talks about them unless they're doing something bad. When they're doing their job, it's just like when they're supposed to do their job. They're supposed to make the blocks. So they got to be the closest knit guys. They get the most criticism.
Yep.
It's always the next man up. Yep. And the good teams go into every game with 7 offensive linemen. You can only start 5, but you should be comfortable playing 7 at any time if you're got it to speed and you're really that good. So, and we're tested right now. We're in we're down to our 7th offensive lineman. Right. We already had our starting left tackle out for the season. His backup, Zim Mikowski, he's out and we don't know if he's going to make it back for the season or not. So we're in a 3rd starting left tackle, and now you're starting center. So that's 2 bona fide starters that are out and 1 backup. So again, those guys got to be tight in the unit, the tightest unit of the team, and, one of the most well coached. So they're going to be, these last not just the last 2 regular season games, every game for the rest of the season, that's going to be a focal point of getting those younger guys and maybe a season away from getting regular snaps. He's going to have to step up, and they did.
I was out in Oregon with my dad and my brother for that Ohio State game, and our running game, our offense in that first half was really something. And then we lost our left tackle, and we completely abandoned the running game in the second half. We didn't play our best game, but the point is, to your point, the next week against Nebraska, we weren't quite there yet, and then the week after at Penn State, we looked like we were a cohesive unit again. We're a double-digit favorite going in against Indiana, and that hasn't changed much. Does this change your opinion on any concern that you would have about Indiana? In other words, were you concerned about Indiana before? Or are you any more concerned now?
Yes. I mean, because you have to respect your opponent. And they're a Big Ten team. Don't care what the rest of the country
Mhm.
says. But I've been looking at Indiana for the last 6
Okay.
weeks. And they started off 4-0.
Yep.
I'm like, Indiana's 4-0. Wow, can you believe it? They
Back
went
when you
undefeated in
played, that
September.
didn't happen very often when you played, did it?
No, it did not. It did
Yeah.
not. And, I always, you always have the utmost respect for your
Mhm.
opponents. But let's just face it, with the transfer portal and things of that nature, new coach, a lot of new players, they didn't inherit the history that Indiana has been, prior to this year. They said when this is the first time they've ever won 10
Mhm.
games, ever been 10-0, or first time they ever won 10 games in their history. Okay, I mean, but these guys and the coach don't know nothing about it. How many? I think they got over 30 or 40 new
Oh yeah.
players on that roster. They don't know anything about it. They just know about here and right now. And you have to judge them not on their past, but what are they doing right now. And every time Ohio State plays Indiana, you still got to respect them because they're the Big Ten opponent. But I used to tell my friends, it's going to be hard to find highlight reels against me in Indiana because you're supposed to do that against Indiana, the old Indiana.
That's right.
You
That's right.
know,
Well,
but you have to respect them today. And
your
they're
your
10 and
Super
0.
16 poll, Keith. I see you've got them number 3.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I respect the 0 in the right column.
Mhm.
So they're 10 and 0, and they're like, well, who would they play? They haven't played a ranked team. They won. They won all 10 games. The Michigan game was their lowest scoring game, and they had 17 points.
Yeah.
That was their lowest scoring
Mhm.
game. Everybody else, they can score 30 plus points. They did what they're supposed to do. And should they beat Ohio State on Saturday? No, they should not beat us. But will it be a tough game? It could be.
Mhm.
I don't worry about the odds makers. I like W's and
Yep.
L's, wins and
Yep.
losses. But we're supposed to take care of business against Indiana. But this is that once in a 50, 60, 70-year period where Indiana is good. And usually you have a good offense, terrible defense, or a good
Mhm.
defense and a bad offense. This year, they got a really good offense. The defense has been very good when it's been called upon.
Yep.
But the offense has been so good, the defense has been one-dimensional. I think they pull their ears back and rush the quarterback if we got a 14-point lead or a 3-score lead. And, you just can't ground and pound them out. But they showed me something against Michigan.
Mhm.
Is you said, well, Michigan doesn't have a weapon, they don't have a quarterback. Doesn't matter. That defense still, they buckled down, got turnovers, and played hard. So for Ohio State to win that game on Saturday, that's going to be one of those games. I don't care how they play. I care how we play. If we play Buckeye football, nobody's country is going to beat us. Nobody.
Right.
But if we let them hang around and make mistakes and just don't play, the right way, then we can't be beat. Everybody's season, no matter how good or how bad you are, everybody has a high point in the season and a low point. And I don't think Ohio State has hit their peak yet.
I'm interested to see how good Ryan Day. Personally, I'm a Ryan Day fan. If he has us
Okay.
motivated and play one of our best games and just take care of Indiana and not look ahead of Michigan, or are you concerned that we might still be looking ahead of Michigan?
We better not be looking ahead of Michigan. That's the head coach's job.
Mhm.
And being a head coach at Ohio State is not an easy job, but it's the best job in the world.
Yeah, it is.
It's the best job in America. It's not supposed to be easy.
Yeah.
And you're judged on no matter, it's not just Ryan Day, any coach at Ohio State, you got to win 2 games. You're judged on how you do it in the Michigan game and how you do it in your bowl record. Those are the 2 games on your contract that you have to win. You got to win this schedule every year. You got to win, 50% of those games. Not, really, you got to at least go 5-5. 500 against Michigan. And that's barely saving your job. But when you dip below that number, it's hard to stay the coach at Ohio State because you're not winning better than 50% of the games against Michigan. And then you go to your bowl game and your bowl record isn't much better. It's not good. And that's not, and I'm a Ryan Day fan. I want to see Ryan
so am
Day
I.
be, tremendously successful. But, some things like his top 5 record, 2-8 against top 5 teams.
Yeah.
It's not good. You don't have to be 100%. Nobody's asking for
Right.
perfection. But 2-8 is not getting it. It was 1-7 prior to the Penn State game. This is the top 5 opponent we're playing this week. He's got to be 3-9. You don't want to be 2-9
Right.
after this game. And then once you get into the playoffs, those, you're gonna face another top 5 team also. More than likely, if you were trying to win a national championship, you're judged on how you win the big game. at Ohio State. You're not getting credit for beating unranked teams. I never even heard of that stat. Ryan Day's never lost to an unranked team.
Okay.
He's not supposed to. you know, really, that's a thing. No, we don't judge you on that. You judge you on how you play big games. You want to be a big time coach, you got to win big time
Right.
games. You want to be a big time player at Ohio State, you got to play well in the big games. That's why I alluded to earlier. You pull up my highlight film, you're not going to see a whole lot of Indiana
Right.
on there. You're going to see me play big in big games,
Right.
big time opponents. That's how you judge it. And no matter who the head coach is, I'm not calling for Ryan Day's
Right.
job. Certainly not today.
Right.
But you lose to Oregon, and then it's not just that you lost to Oregon. The last two seasons, we've been 11-0, and then we've gone on and lost the last two games of the season.
Oh, yeah.
We've been 11-2 after that.
That's no good.
So this year you have to beat Michigan, and especially since you lost to Oregon, and I think you got to beat Michigan, and you have to get to the national championship
Right.
game. And so you got to win the national championship game, but you got to get there, to keep this job. And that's a lot of expectation. That's a lot, on you, but it's a big job. What job is better? I'll wait. I can't think of a better job in college football than Ohio State.
I'll wait.
There's not a better job. What's the best job? He's got whatever you want, you have it at Ohio State. I just remind people, because sometimes they have a tendency to forget. Well, when Urban Meyer came in, we started getting all that good talent. Then I'm like, when did Ohio State not have talent? We've always had talent.
Right.
When have
Right.
we ever been, like, man, wish we had some talent at Ohio
Right.
State? Always had talent. Any decade you want to look at, there's always talent on the roster. So there'll always be talent on the roster because of who we are and what we're attracting. Who doesn't want to be a Buckeye? A lot of people do.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be a talent, lack of talent at Ohio State. They will always have talent. You have to coach them. You got to mold them. And you beat Michigan every day of the year, not just Michigan week. That next week is going to be my favorite week of the year. I love Michigan week. Everything. Then you explode on game day. I love that. So you have to prepare for them all season long. So looking ahead after Indiana to Michigan, no. We know when the schedule came out, the Indiana game is going to be for Michigan. We didn't know it was going to be such a big game,
Right.
but there's been years we played Penn State before Michigan.
Yeah.
You still got to be, you're looking past Penn State to get to Michigan.
Right.
Michigan's going to take care of itself. So the biggest game on the schedule is this Saturday in the Horseshoe versus Indiana. And that's Ryan Day's job to have them ready to play. From the very first quarter on, you can't be playing around like we did last week against Northwestern.
Right.
Those first two drives that the defense was out there, I'm like, are y'all ready to play?
Mhm.
I know it's 11 o'clock local
Right.
time, but wake up. Start playing football. It's an opportunity.
Tennessee reminds me of a team that peaked early and they're fading. Alabama
Yep.
and Ole Miss remind me of teams that kind of were, biding their time and now they're peaking.
I'm sure if Alabama's peaking or not. Because to be honest with you, I'm not sure how good Alabama is.
Okay.
They're riding high off beating the LSU. How good is LSU?
Doug,
know?
tell him how good LSU is, Doug. Come on, tell him.
Man, LSU, I mean, they look good for a while. Now they've lost, 3 in a row?
Keith,
I mean,
Doug has been on You should hear him talk about LSU national. LSU is his team all year long.
Wait a minute. USC beat LSU. And where's USC at the Big Ten?
Right.
And they beat
Right.
LSU.
No,
that was first game of the year. But that LSU, how LSU looked against Texas A&M was ridiculous. But they've completely faded.
I'm sorry. I'm not a believer in Brian Kelly.
Overrated.
Notre Dame, all on the rise ever since that terrible loss to Northern Illinois. So here we go.
Northern Illinois,
Yeah. So what is your, just as a former player, what are your thoughts on this new playoff? Do you love it as much as everybody else does?
And this is the non-traditional answer.
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of the talks about being expanded to 12 games. I mean, the 12 teams. The reason why, it's college football.
Yep.
And if the national champion this year is going to play, what we said, 16 games?
15 or 16.
That's the NFL, 15 or 16. That's the NFL schedule.
Right.
The NFL's play 17. Whereas in basketball, the national champion in March Madness might play 40 regular season, 40 games, including the national championship. The NBA plays 82. So you're treating, and then, you talk about player safety, but you're adding more
Right.
games to the player. I mean, it shouldn't take 16 games to determine who the national championship is.
No,
I just don't like it. The only reason why I would say expand to 12 games is cut down the regular season.
yes.
You don't need 12 regular season games and a conference championship to determine who's going to go to the playoffs and go on and win. But it comes back to money.
Oh
Do you
yeah.
think, Ohio State averages between 7 and 8 home games a year? You think they want to say only give us 6 or 5? It's a lot of money to be made on these home games and having all, scheduling Marshalls and Western Michigan and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So it's all about money. So when you talk about, we're not talking about it yet, but when you talk about, money, NIL, name, image, and likeness, the player, how you feel about them getting all that money? It's nothing but a big money grab.
Mm. Right.
For these colleges, they got so many revenue streams, we can't even count them. It's not just TV. They got tons of revenue streams
Yep.
that they're making off the backs of these
Yep.
athletes. And you don't want them to share in the wealth. I think everybody on scholarship ought to be making 6 figures a year
Yeah.
minimum.
I mean,
It's that much money.
yeah.
It's that much money. Because you're requiring them to put in 45, 50 hours of work weeks and study
Yeah.
and do this. Are they really college athletes?
Right.
At that point, no, I don't think
Right.
so. They need to be, well compensated. And whether they play it down for your university or not, you need to pay them because you want them to be working from August. Well, really, season never really
Mhm.
ends. But when training camp opens in August, and then the last game is going to be the last week of January, that championship game, that's a long season where college basketball just getting started. It'll be over in March, and they play once a week. It's nowhere near the same as the
Right.
NFL. I mean, it's college football.
Taking nothing away from
It's just too much.
taking nothing away from the physicality of the other sports. There's nothing like.
Yes.
I mean, not only are these kids going through this gauntlet. Hell, I can. You know better than most how physically violent and taxing these games are. My God.
Yeah.
Assuming Ohio State takes care of business, Indiana, Michigan. Now we rematch against Oregon. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Neutral field?
Yeah. In the Big Ten?
We play Oregon on a neutral
Yeah.
field. I think that might be game 2 of a possible 3.
Oh, okay.
Because I think those two teams could very well meet again,
Okay.
regardless of who wins in Indianapolis if they both get there, and they should.
Mhm.
That'll be a good game on neutral
Mhm.
field, and I like the Buckeyes. I like them on the road, but I like them again. It's hard to beat a team twice in the regular
Right.
season. You even see it in the pros. It's hard to sweep a
Right.
team. Yeah, and then sometimes you got to play them 3 times, even in the pros. So I would love to see, the Buckeyes, get a rematch in the Big Ten championship
Yep.
game, and then I wouldn't be against them playing again in the national championship game for all the marbles.
Right.
And I think if that happens, I know for sure the Big Ten has a marketing problem. I think the SEC does the greatest job of marketing their conference, better than any conference out there. Because right now the Big Ten is clearly the best conference in football this year, this calendar year.
Yep.
But everybody's still trying to figure out a way to get 4 and 5 teams from the SEC in the playoffs, and they surely don't deserve that. They even talk about if Indiana loses, maybe they don't go to the
Right.
playoffs.
You're right.
I'm like, are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
you're right.
If they're 11-1, they're got to be in under any matrix.
Do you think that was the best thing to happen for the Ohio State losing that game, or do you never believe that a loss is a good loss?
I never believe a loss is a good loss. I like to learn from close wins than than close losses. But if that's what it's going to take to shake those guys up, I mean, I never learned anything from a loss other than I hate losing. That's something I hate.
Well, and
but
that
sometimes
goes a long
it
way.
takes that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in my rookie year in the NFL, we went 5-10-1, and we lost 7 of those 10 losses were by 7 points or less. And so Buddy Ryan would come in the locker room after the game, yelling at us and cussing us out, saying you guys don't know how to win. And I'm like, why don't you teach us how to win? But we were learning a lesson how to win through those losses. Because 7 points or less, that's a possession. And we were figuring out ways to lose games because we were young instead of figuring out ways to win games. And then once you learn that lesson, in pro, then we started winning those close games. And then, hey, we're in the playoffs. Hey, we won a division. And it's like, wow, that's how, the transformation happens. So in college, it's a little different animal, but it's still with the longer season, like you said, that's going to be that much harder now, to go undefeated. But I would love to see the NCAA somehow institute every conference has to play the same amount of conference
Right.
games. The Big Ten plays 9 and SEC plays 8. So that means you get 4 non-conference games as opposed to the 3 that the Big Ten has. I mean, the Big Ten are out of non-conference games by September, and it's just one grind week after week in your conference. Whereas the SEC, like I said, they have a better marketing arm than anybody. They act like, oh, they deserve a bye, a breather in, a cupcake team, if you will, in November before our really big games. Because every game is big in the SEC. It just means more. Like, it's me with that nonsense. It's a bunch of crap. The Big Ten is a gauntlet also. It's always been a gauntlet, whether we market it that way or not. You go into Camp Randall on a Saturday night, like Oregon did last Saturday. They found us a little different than playing there on Saturday afternoon, like when Alabama played there in
That's
September.
right.
You go there in November, that's a big win. Penn State, okay, it's tough venue to play there. Michigan, Ohio State, it's a lot of tough venues. Whereas, and how good your team is makes a big difference of that. Also, I mean, how tough is it to go in with Death Valley where LSU plays right now? They're not a very good football
Yep.
team. Yeah, the fans can be rabid, but they still, they're not a good team.
Yep.
So it's not that tough to go in there and win when the team isn't that good. But when the team is good, it's going to always be tough to win. But in certain environments, no matter, I know the tradition of college football, there's tough places to win. Iowa has never been easy to win. They paint the locker room pink and
That's
try to
right.
make you more docile. Have you waving at the kids in between the
Oh my
first and
God, that's
second
right.
quarter?
You're right.
It's a lot of different distractions. That's a part of the football game and the college football experience. That's one of the beautiful things that we love about college football is the uniqueness of each stadium.
Right.
Oregon only has 60,000 seat stadium, but all 60,000 of them are right almost on top of
Yep.
you. So that's a tough hostile
Yep.
environment to play
Yep.
here.
Keith, that's a great transition. Just a second ago, you talked about playing for Buddy Ryan, and you had a hell of an NFL career, and you played for some legendary coaches. I want to talk about Parcells in a minute, but first, at Ohio State, let's go back to that. You got screwed. Does Doug Flutie send you apology letters every year around Heisman time?
You should.
You are my Heisman winner, sir. I want you to know that.
Well, every time I see Doug Flutie, I haven't seen him much lately in the last couple of years, but every time I see him, I ask him if you keep my trophy clean, keep the dust
I'm
off.
telling you.
So I say it to his face. What are you gonna do? Whip me?
No, he's not. No, he's not.
That Miami Boston College game was the Friday after Thanksgiving. My season was already in the can, regular season. We're Big Ten champions.
Yep.
Boston College is independent.
Yep.
And everybody sitting around after their post turkey watching football on a Friday afternoon, and they saw that,
Yep.
and then they turned their ballots
That's
in.
exactly right.
But in the 40 years since, I haven't watched the Heisman Trophy ceremony since that day I was there in the downtown athletic club
Damn.
40 years ago. I don't even watch it.
Damn.
God rest his soul, my former teammate Jerome Brown. He was on that team.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to tease Jerome. I said, Jerome, all those sacks you had in college, you took that play off. You should have sacked him.
Oh my God.
The defensive backs that were in on that play.
Jerome Brown was taking a breather. That's dude.
Yes, I like you.
I could listen to your stories all day.
Go get him sacked.
What a story. Jerome Brown. Wow.
The defensive backs on that team, I teased them. I'm like, didn't they teach you to back the ball down in Miami? See, that's, Ohio State, that wouldn't have happened. One of the guys, his name is Daryl Fullerton. And we played golf together from time to time. And last summer, I saw him at a golf tournament, and he was one of my buddies, and he said, "How you doing? My name is Daryl Fulton." I said, "Man, tell him your real name." My name is Daryl. I tossed Keith Byars the Heisman Trophy because I couldn't bat a Hail Mary pass. Fullerton.
Oh.
He couldn't do that for long.
Oh my.
I said to him, like, tell him your real name. You don't know how to bat a pass
Oh
now.
my
Cost
God, that is
millions of dollars in a
hilarious.
Heisman Trophy. Yeah, so everybody, and I never cheer for Miami. I'm surprised they're ranked that high in my rankings.
Yeah, you got him.
Because I never cheer for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, you got him number 9. Let's just talk about this Illinois game. You're down 24-0. You had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
5.
We needed him that day too.
So tell us, you're down 24. Like, when did you
ABC baby?
When did you know? Like, oh, it's on. Were the holes bigger? Were you just feeling like they couldn't tackle you? Something had to change because we were down 24-0. Take us through, Keith. I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, that's a good question. I remember going down 24-0. I had fumbled,
Okay.
I think I scored when I fumbled, I think that made it 21-0.
Okay.
And and I just remember coming to the sideline and saying, it's Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong, will go
Okay.
wrong. And I'm like, I didn't even get hit and I fumbled. The ball just flat off my thigh pad. And I'm like, it's homecoming in the shoe. We don't like Illinois. They beat us the previous
Yep.
year. They're the defending Big Ten champions. And I just cannot, we're not going to lose this game. And I just said, no matter, we got a lot of time to play. It's 24-0 early in the second quarter. There's no play in the playbook that's going to score us 24 points. Just like they got 24 points, one play at a time, that's what we have to do. Somebody's got to step up and make the play. And don't look around. Look in the mirror. It's you. And that's what happened. I just said, I just refuse to lose. Whatever I can do to help my team win, I'm going to let it happen. And when I scored my first touchdown, I juked the guys down and scored the first touchdown. It kind of like felt like, that's all we needed. Now the floodgates is open. And then, we go on and score 21 points. And then it's halftime. I think we're down by 3. Hey, it's a whole new day. They won the first quarter. We won the second quarter. Now let's go win the second half. And it was a slugfest, from there on out. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know I scored 5 touchdowns and set a school record until it was over. I wasn't saying, oh, I got a touchdown, got 2 touchdowns. I wasn't even using count. I wasn't counting. I was only worried about the next series, the next opportunity out there on the field. And then right before I scored my last touchdown, I think we got 1st and 10 at the 20-yard line. We have an 80-yard drive. And the first play we ran on that play was a crossing route to Chris Carter that almost got
Chris
intercepted.
Carter.
And everybody in the huddle, we just looked at the sideline at Earl Bruce and we like, run the ball.
Yeah.
We didn't throw another pass. Mike Tomczak.
It was Mike Tomczak.
Mike
It was the
Tomczak.
Mike
quarterback.
Tomczak.
Yeah.
We were guessing. I guess
Yeah.
Greg. I couldn't remember. Mike. Okay.
Yeah. And we never threw another pass for 80 yards.
Here's the deal. The ball's on the right hash. Okay. The handoff goes to you off right tackle. So you go up the right side of the football field. You are on the sideline, get the first down, and cut all the way back down. That's when the shoe flies off like a
The shoe was
missile.
flowing at about the 40.
Tell us.
Yeah, it just felt that when I started to cut back toward the middle, my foot, the shoe just fell loose.
It flies
And
off. It just flies off you.
And I just kicked it. I just kicked it off at that point. And I'm like, I can't stop now. I said, it's not like I haven't ran with barefoot before. I think that there was a play called to the fullback. And then Mike didn't like what he saw at the defense, so he checked it, to a different run.
Wow.
And so he checked it to his draw play, a weak side draw.
That's what it is.
And my mother was happy because she was like, Keith, after the game, she told me, I'm so glad you didn't have a hole in your sock. I said, Mom, I know prior to Ohio State, there's a strong possibility I could have had a hole in my sock.
Oh, my God.
I said, but no, I don't have any holes in my sock. She said, oh, that's all I was worried about. Don't be out here embarrassing me with holes in your sock.
Listen, can we be honest?
That story,
That was me.
that story of that game and the way you put it reminds me a lot of, when you said I got to look in the mirror and nobody's going to take us to that finish line, but myself, and we got to step up to play. It reminds me a lot of this tournament event I had where a guy brought me up to Double Eagle to play golf, and I got paired with the worst guy in the group. Archie Griffin was my partner that day, and I had to play against Keith Byars and your buddy Doc, and I looked at Archie.
Yeah.
I looked at Archie and I watched him hit a couple shots, and I realized right then and there that this was on me to win this match. Like I was going to have to step up and take us to the finish line if we were going to win this match, and that's what happened then.
Oh my! Did you that shot? Me and Doc still talk about the shot you hit on 16.
Mm-hmm.
16 is the long par 4 dog leg left over water.
Mm-hmm.
Doug's tee shot hit just above the water line and kicked in the water. And and then he hit the third shot, in and one, out and two, and he hit the best shot I could ever see. It was about 220 drop off the side hill line. And me and Doc said, we're in trouble. Did you see the shot that man just hit? To hit that ball on the green from there up that line.
Hey,
It was like,
hey,
uh-oh.
Keith, I've known Doug.
That was probably the
Yeah.
fifth press, and you're like, all right, we got him
Yes.
now. And I pulled that one out. Yeah.
I've known Doug since we were little kids, and the one thing I learned a long time ago, he's on my team. Scramble.
Yes.
And I'm not going against this guy. You watch him hit a golf ball, it'll just make you freaking. I mean, I'm like from the summer. I just want to just start beating him up. Like I'm just so tired of watching the sound he makes. I was just like, come here, you. You know, but
You're like, are we playing the same game? But
no,
then we go to
we're not.
17.
We're not.
It's a drivable par 4.
Yeah.
3 balls are on the green and
Oh
one.
no, I know.
Only one of us made birdie.
The sound it makes. No, for real. It is something special.
No, Casey, you didn't hear me. I was on I drove the green. Dr. Ron Moore drove the green. Doug drove the green. Archie missed the blade up. Doug 2-putted, had a tap in for birdie, and me and Doc 3-putted for par.
I heard
And we
you.
lose
Yeah,
that
of
one.
course. Yeah.
Yeah. That was you guys.
Hey, man.
I remember that. Archie's looking at me. Archie had this wry smile, like, "Oh, we just did it. We just did it right there."
Keith, you both 3. Oh no.
We both 3-putted.
Oh no.
Par.
All right. Listen.
That was one of the most fun days. One of the most fun days of golf I have. I still have that picture the 4 of us took on that par 3. I think it was number 12, and I still have that picture framed. That was a great day. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Keith, little side note, fun fact about this play before we move on to your NFL career. Are you aware? Doug and I and a couple of people were talking last week when we found out you're going to be on. Are you aware that this play? You know the show Saved by the Bell, iconic.
Yes.
Are you aware? And if not, your boy Case got your back.
Well, I'm aware of it, but I don't have a copy of it.
You know that's.
And I didn't even know it when it happened. I was like, I never seen the show. But I know the show, but I never.
You should
seen
be getting royalties. The show's a cult. The show's a cult classic. It is a cult classic. It is rerun all the time. Zach Morris, AC Slater. Those are the main characters' names. And Zach Morris is telling the audience, he breaks the fourth wall at the end of one of the episodes and says, by the way, Bayside, which is their high school, which was losing 21-0 to Valley in that particular episode, they came back to win behind AC Slater's 3 touchdowns. They show this play. They show that AC Slater is you. They show this.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, say, Keith, it's worth it.
I'm gonna do a deep dive on YouTube or something to find that play.
And again, understand how important this play is to me in my childhood, in my life. I mean, I could remember the first time instantly. I was like, what the hell's that all about? They blocked out the... Bro, I mean, you are in Saved by the Bell. You are AC Slater. Wow. It is the wildest... You got to check that out, man, because
I'm gonna check. Now they got me in the Ohio State jersey.
It's the exact play. They just block out the Ohio State.
Oh,
it's the exact play. They show the damn play.
They just blur that out.
Yeah, just not Ohio State.
Which
they blur it out.
Run?
Huh?
Which is it? A touchdown run?
It's your run
against Illinois.
It's your run with the shoe coming off.
The one shoe run. And it's you.
It's you. It's you. And he's like, hey, watch AC Slater. Oh, my God. It is the funniest thing.
AC Slater.
Yeah. I mean, I told Doug, I said, Keith has got to be getting royalties. That has been played. It's been played 1,000,000 times.
Wow.
You are AC.
Somewhere in the world. It's
right now.
Saved by the Bell fans.
And you were the savior for Valley, or excuse me, Bayside, as they beat Valley. So anyway, there you go. Into the...
Okay.
I know it's getting late, but we're going to, if you don't mind, your NFL career, you played for, you were a number 10 draft pick in the first round of the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and Doug and I were talking about this earlier, even after your senior year when you had the broken foot, I mean, they still took you. You played in some big time games. I mean, talk about, you played for, was it Shula or Jimmy Johnson at Miami?
Shula.
Okay, so you went Buddy Ryan, Shula, Who you play for in New England? Who?
Bill Parcells.
And then the Jets was
Yeah.
he played. I mean, can you just talk to the
I
people?
played for Bill twice.
Tell the people what it was like to play. These are Hall of Fame legendary coaches.
I just say it was a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a blessing to play. For Buddy Ryan, who I think they should put him in the Hall of Fame one of these days. He was my first head coach, and he was brutally honest. And a lot of times, some coaches tell you what you want to hear, or they have someone else, deliver the news. Buddy was that guy right in your face to tell you when you did good and when you did bad. And, he would tell you, you don't have to agree with me, but my decision is only, my opinion only matters around here. So it means something. So I enjoyed it. He taught me how to be a pro, what it takes to be a professional football player. And, your preparation and everything, a little different than college because you don't have final exams or any of that stuff. All day long it's about the NFL, it's about football. So this is your job and you better be prepared to do it. Otherwise I'll get somebody else in here once. So he taught me how to, so I know if I could play for him, I could play for anybody. Then when I leave leave Philadelphia, go to Miami, and I get to play for Don Shula, who's certainly, named top coaches on any list and top 2 or top 3 coaches of all time. Don Shula's name got to get mentioned. And what Shula taught me was just about preparation. He would call a play in the 3rd game or the 4th game of the regular season that we hadn't worked on since day 2 of training camp. But he's expecting you to know it. He's expecting, everything in this playbook you should know at any time. Whether we practice it or not, you ought to be studying it. So you should be prepared and, no reason for you not to be. And so it was a joy to just sit back and just watch how he went about his business and how he prepared the team and the things he would say. So it was a joy, to play for, somebody that grew up on, idolized as a kid, growing up. But the Miami Dolphins, their coach is Don Shula, Super Bowl champion. And so to get to be around him on a daily basis, I really, really learned a lot, from him, as well. And then, in my career to play for a great coach like Bill Parcells, I was just like, there's a reason why he's got Super Bowls under his belt. I went to the Super Bowl with the Patriots, with him. Unfortunately, we came up on the short end of that game. But it was a joy, to see, the way he turned that team around.
So he took you with him to the Jets that next year.
And then I came back the next year.
How was that Super Bowl experience?
Yeah, I was mad at him when he left.
Oh, you were mad at him?
Oh, I was mad at him because when I went to New England, I signed a 2-year contract and he left after the first year. And I was mad because I'm like, I only signed 2 years because I wanted to play for you. And so when he left to go to the Jets, when we played the Jets the following year, me and him had some words on the field in pregame. Just pulled him to the teams were warming up, and I go straight to Bill and I told him how I felt. And he would tell me, calm down, you'll be here next year.
Right.
Dude, I only came here for you. Just calm down. You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. I'm like, Bill, why you signed me 2 years and you leaving after 1? You should have just signed me to a 1-year contract. I'd have left with you. I want to play for you. I want to play for Pete Carroll. I want to play for you.
Well, did you play for Pete Carroll? Did you go? You went to the Jets? So
yeah, 1 year he did.
Oh, you actually stayed and played for Pete Carroll for 1 year, then went to the Jets. Okay.
And then I went to the Jets. So when my second year was up, my contract was up after the '97 season,
and he's no slouch either. I mean, good God, that's an unbelievable list of coaches.
Right. Yeah. So I got to. I didn't even talk to the Patriots. I told them, y'all know what it is. Yeah, I had a good time here. I loved it. Y'all know I'm going down I-95 to play to New York to play with the Jets.
Hey, Doug, I'll tell you this. I remember this. Memory serves me now. You were one of Bill Parcells' dudes. Like, he wanted...
Yeah.
That tells me so much about you as a football player and a man, frankly. I mean, Bill Parcells, look, I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan, Giants guy, but I know, I mean, legendary. I remember that, Keith. I mean, like, you were one of the guys that Bill was like, I need Keith Byars here.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why he brought me to the Patriots. He said, I need winners around here. They haven't won. Damn. They don't know how. They need to be taught how to win. And he said, You used to beat me up when you was in Philadelphia and I was in New York. He used to tell me how many more games I could have won if I'd had you
That's
with me.
right.
We'd have had you my whole career.
Yeah.
I said, well, let's go win them now, coach. And so that was when my job, when I went to New England, was to teach them how to win, because they hadn't won anything. And so that all the great years that Belichick had and the Super Bowl years, I should remind people I was a part of the seeds in the ground,
Mm.
and Willie McGinnis and Drew Bledsoe and Ty Law,
Oh,
Lloyd Malloy. Those are puppies when I got to New England. They didn't know how to win.
right.
I taught them guys how to win and what the difference was, and what it takes, to win. Because they were talented, Curtis Martin,
Oh,
talented, but
yeah.
they didn't know how to win. I mean, and we won our first playoff game when I got there in '96. We beat the Steelers in the playoffs. We got to that game, Curtis like exploded on the Steelers. Had like 2 touchdowns, over 150 yards rushing. And it was like, I was like, I feel sorry for the Steelers because it's not the Steelers. He's mad at his
Damn.
head coach. And
I
I
mean,
was like, man, that was Bill Parcells, a great motivator.
oh, yeah.
He was like Curtis, I'd rather you get mad at me and take it out on the Steelers than just prepare for this game like it's just any other game. Because it's not. Curtis ran us to the Super Bowl that year.
You mentioned Jerome Brown. You played with Reggie White.
We was talking about GOATs when I just brought up
Yep.
GOATs.
Yep.
And in football, there's only two GOATs. I said defensive end and outside linebacker. Reggie White is the GOAT of defensive ends. There's no defensive end better than him. Zero. From Deacon Jones to Bruce Smith to anybody you want, Reggie White was that guy.
Oh,
And
yeah.
outside linebacker, Lawrence Taylor. There's no outside linebacker better than Lawrence Taylor in football. Defensive end, there's none better than Reggie White. Any other position in football is debated.
I'm going to give you 3 games in college, Keith. You're going to pick this against the spread, and 3 games in the NFL, then we're going to cut you loose. And I'm going to go downstairs and make my dog sleep out in the blizzard tonight. So,
Okay.
Illinois, ranked number 24 in the country, minus a 1.5 at Rutgers. Illinois at Rutgers, minus a 1.5.
Illinois.
Ole Miss, minus the 10.5 at Florida in the swamp.
Is DJ Lightweight going to play? Lightweight quarterback?
For Florida,
I believe he's back.
I
I
think
believe he's back.
Florida.
do you want to pick the Ohio State game or do you want me to go to a different game?
Oh, I'm taking Ohio State no matter what.
All right, so we got Ohio State minus the 11.5. Doug, what are your 3 plays?
All right, so in college, first game I'm taking is Nebraska is at home against Wisconsin minus 2.5. I'm taking Nebraska.
Okay.
Wisconsin's coming off that tough loss against Oregon. I don't think they bounce back well from that, and Nebraska's somewhat underrated. They finally get to go back home after a long road trip, so I like Nebraska minus 2.5 against Wisconsin. I'm gonna stay in the Big Ten for the second game. We got the old rivalry USC UCLA is playing this week at UCLA. UCLA's plus 4.5. I like UCLA getting the 4.5 points. USC's been struggling, and UCLA's actually had a couple good games. They had that big win against Washington a few weeks back. So I like USC getting plus 4.5. And the last game I'm taking is Washington State and Oregon State. Oregon State has got one of the best running backs in the country that's been out for a while.
Okay.
He's back this week. They've got 2 really good running backs. They're getting 12.5 points against Washington State. That's ridiculous.
Okay.
Oregon State may win that game outright.
All right, Keith,
So Oregon State plus 12.5.
the 3 NFL teams I'm gonna select for you are the Eagles, Dolphins, and Jets, because we're not gonna screw the Patriots and Pete Carroll. So let's go. Let's go.
I got
Philly
the Eagles winning.
minus
Eagles.
2. Minus 2.5. Doug, he's got Eagles minus 2.5 at the Rams. The Patriots at Miami. The Dolphins minus the 7. Who do you got?
I'm gonna go with the Patriots.
The Cowboys are playing the Commanders, and the Commanders are minus 10.5.
That's it.
Jaden Daniels going to be ready.
All right, so he's got the Commanders minus
The
10.5. Okay.
The Commanders.
First game I'm taking will be Detroit. Detroit is now 8-1 against the spread this year, or 8-2 against the spread. However, they're going against the team that's got the next best record in the NFL against the spread, and that's the Colts, who are 7-3. The Colts got Anthony Richardson back for a second start. They've been playing pretty well, and Detroit's coming off a couple big wins on the road. I like Indy. I like Indy to cover that 7.5 points against Detroit. That's play number 1. Play number 2, Arizona is going against Seattle. So underrated. Kyler Murray's been playing better than anyone for the last 4 to 6 weeks. He's been on fire. Seattle's coming off a huge upset victory over San Francisco. I see a little bit of a letdown there. Give me Kyler Murray -1 against the Seahawks. And then the last game I'm taking, you've got the team that lost to Seattle last week, San Francisco 49ers, who are now 5-5 in a must-win situation, going against Green Bay, who's won 2 games in a row that were ridiculous. They had no business winning. And I get the Niners, the better team, +3 at Lambeau. Give me the Niners all day long.
Keith Byars, you have been a sport today. It has been an honor and a pleasure having you. Before we go, you want to tell people
we was able to get it.
Where can they find you? You have your radio show there on 1410, I believe, in Dayton. Tell us where we can find
1410 W, 610, 1410 Wing AM in Dayton.
Keith Byars, everybody, the Buckeye legend.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith, so much.
Have an awesome
night.
You
guys are very welcome.
Go Bucks, Keith.
Go Bucks.
Do you believe this stuff that's coming out of your mouth? There's no way you do it.
This was a credit card cuckold.
Love wins out in the end, you know?